we're going to have a look now at how to fit one of these. Now this one is an Emmeline one, and these are fabulous quality, but I've also got much cheaper ones that I've got from AliExpress and from other suppliers. But I'm going to show you this one because it's bigger, so these are big enough for you to be able to see. Now the first thing I would say that I always do when I'm using anything like this that fits over the edge of a bag is I will do a sort of a test run with a piece of fabric that's of a similar sort of thickness to the side of my bag to make sure that I've got enough bulk to actually fill the hardware. Now this is a piece that I've been using for all of these videos. It's got holes on both sides because I've used it to fit various different bits of hardware. But if you imagine that that's the side of a bag, this is going to fit over the side of the bag, or it could even fit on the front to attach a strap to, but wherever you need to put it. So I would make a sort of using scraps of fabric, I would just make a small piece up just to make sure that there's enough bulk. And in this instance, there probably isn't, because you can see that that's actually going to have a gap on the inside. So I would add just a little bit of extra foam or a little bit of extra something or other on the inside between the lining and the exterior, just at the points where I'm going to add my hardware. And you can see there that's made a huge difference. That fits much more snugly. And what you have to remember is actually once your top stitching is done, it's going to compress whatever is inside of there, so it will actually sit, it will be slightly thinner. So if this feels like it's a bit of a struggle to get on, what you should be able to do, I'd hope, would be to put it on there and actually have it stay on, and then I know that it's going to fit beautifully. So how do we fit these things? You can see that they actually come, now I've got some where they don't, the back doesn't come off. I'm just going to put that in a safe place, and they quite literally just slide over, and they have the little grub screws which have got like a pointed end on them. You don't actually have to make any holes. However, these ones have a front, a back, and the two screws. So how do we fit them? We take the back, and the back is the bit that we're going to use as our template, and we lay it over the top of our bag so that the edge bit sits on the top of our bag, and we mark where the screw holes are. Remove and use your hole punch, whatever is your preferred method to make holes. I would also advise always putting a little bit of Decavil just at the top of your bag where these go, just because it gives it just a little bit of extra stability. I'm just going to poke out the middle of that one so that I have got holes that go right the way through. Now for the ones that are self-tapping, so they don't have the front and back, you just have the little holes that sort of screw in, you will need to, you won't need to make holes because the little tiny screws that screw in just tap in through the fabric and they'll just drive a hole through the fabric. But these ones where the screws are actually going into a threaded area on this side, you will need to make holes. So on the inside of your bag, we've made our marks and our holes. So on the outside of our bag, we pop our front panel on and basically push the fabric of your bag down over those holes. And the top here should sit just nicely aligned with the edge of your bag, assuming you've made your holes in the exact right place. There will be a tiny gap, and I think if I hold that up you can see there's a tiny gap, and the tiny gap is to accommodate this little piece. So I'm just going to slide that over the top, line up the screw holes, Again, a lot easier with a magnetic screwdriver. Pop one screw in just until it bites. I don't ever tighten up my screws until I've got them all in, because sometimes tightening up one screw will misalign everything else and then you end up cross-threading. So once I've got them both in, I'll just double check that my connector is where I want it on my bag, and then tighten them up. Now, a lot of people say like to put a bit of Loctite or a bit of glue underneath those screws just to keep them in. I never do. I've never had one fall out. I don't use glue with any of the hardware, but that is how to fit. Now you can either say have them on the front of a bag and then have a swivel clip connected to that, or you could have it on the side of a bag and have a swivel clip with a strap connected to it. But strap connectors like this, these edge strap connectors, are really easy to fit. It's just a question of making sure that you use this back plate to mark where you're actually going to fit it. And you can see that fits beautifully. It could do with being a bit thicker, because this is just a test piece that I'm using for my videos. I would also, as I say, put a little drop of Decavil just inside before I did my top stitching, just to give that bit of fabric a little bit more stability before I add one of these, because you know, if you've got a strap coming from this, that's a lot of pressure on two little screws that are going through there to rip the fabric. So you'd want something on the back of the fabric just to make sure that it's nice and sturdy. So that's an Emmeline edge connector, but you can buy them in lots of different places, Bringberry and all of the suppliers that do them. They're all slightly different. Some have a slightly less gap in the middle, so they're ideal for thinner fabrics, and they come in, I've got them in 3/4 inch width and 1/2 inch width, but they all fit in a very similar way. Some of them don't actually have a back, they just slide over the top, and then you add the little grub screws which tap into the fabric. So there we are, edge connectors.